Father, we love you. We thank you for this evening. Lord, you look into the heart of every man and every woman. Father, you know today's been a spiritual battle for me. It's been a tough day. Many things have happened. Many ongoing issues are taking place. The distractions, the trials, and the problems have been many today. Father, what I've just prayed for myself, I know everyone in this room could probably say the same. They're going through battles personally, financially, emotionally, even physically. Father, you call us to this place tonight for your worship. And I pray that we would come together as a church body tonight. Push everything aside and focus on you. God, how we love you. How often we take you for granted. Yeah. Lord, without you, we ain't having church tonight. We need a fresh dose of energy and strength, because tomorrow's got its own set of issues right around the horizon. Bless those that have been mentioned in prayer. Thank you even still, Father, how the devil fights, lets us know that you're doing some things through this church that he's afraid of. Boy, I pray, Father, that you would bless us real good tonight. For us in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. Turn in your Bibles, if you will, 1 Kings chapter 22. Peace, lasting peace. Is that a myth? It seems the more that you live, the more problems that you find in life, the more issues you have to face. It doesn't matter when you get one fire put out, there seems to be yet another fire to put out. I'm just looking forward that there will be no more fire. Especially as you age, and I know I'm not there where some of you are yet. Probably never reach where some of you are. But I know this. I know who my Savior is tonight. Amen. I'm thankful for that. Because I bring nothing to the table. I've got no talents. I've got no gifts other than what God's given me. And all I know is I want to be found faithful. This is my last day. I want you to know that. 1 Kings chapter 22, look at verse 1. They continued 3 years without war between Syria and Israel. It came to pass in the 3rd year that Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, came down to the king of Israel. And the king of Israel said unto his servants, Know ye that Ramoth in Gilead is ours? We be still, and take it not out of the hand of the king of Syria. He said unto Jehoshaphat, Wilt thou go with me to battle to Ramoth Gilead? And Jehoshaphat said to the king of Israel, I am as thou art, my people as thy people, my horses are as thy horses. And Jehoshaphat said unto the king of Israel, Inquire, I pray thee, at the word of the Lord today. Turn, if you will, to 2 Chronicles chapter 18, and I've been burdened with a question this week. How do we find that lasting peace? Folks, I'm here to advise you that it's not going to be found in anything you eat, any movie that you're watching, any event that you're involved in, any hobby that you enjoy, any trip you could take, or anything that makes you smile. That's not what lasting peace is. Lasting peace is in the midst of the storm, knowing that God is there. Amen. Sometimes you have people that are just looking for a fight. Such was the case in Ahab, the wicked king of Israel. Here in 2 Chronicles chapter 18, I was not going to read the whole chapter, but we're going to, because we got to get to chapter 19. I want to give you a little preface to it. We're in church, so don't worry about it. We'll just read some scriptures tonight. How about that? Now Jehoshaphat had riches and honor and abundance and joined affinity with Ahab. After certain years, he went down to Ahab to Samaria, and Ahab killed sheep and oxen for him in abundance and for the people that he had with him, and persuaded him to go up with him to Ramoth Gilead. Ahab, king of Israel, said unto Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, Wilt thou go with me to Ramoth Gilead? And he answered him, I am as thou art, and my people as thy people, and we will be with thee in the war. And Jehoshaphat said unto the king of Israel, Inquire, I pray thee, at the word of the Lord today. Therefore the king of Israel gathered together of prophets 400 men, and said unto them, Shall we go to Ramoth Gilead to battle, or shall I forbear? They said, Go up, for God will deliver it into the king's hand. But Jehoshaphat said, Is there not here a prophet of the Lord besides, that we might inquire of him? And the king of Israel said unto Jehoshaphat, There is yet one man, by whom we may inquire of the Lord, but I hate him. For he never prophesied good unto me, but always evil. The same as Micaiah, the son of Imlah. And Jehoshaphat said, Let not the king say so. And the king of Israel called for one of his officers and said, Fetch quickly Micaiah, the son of Imlah. And the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, sat either of them on his throne, clothed in their robes. And they sat in a void place at the entering in of the gate of Samaria. And all the prophets prophesied before them. Now, just hang on there. All you preachers in the building, wouldn't you want to be at this little meeting? Not me either. What does that exactly mean? What were they doing to lie to such a king? I don't like talking to a liar, do you? I've had people sit there and swear to me about a certain color. And I know for a fact it's not that color. Now, you can't have an argument, Brother Ed. For those who are in the know, Brother Ed sometimes has difficulties shading colors. But you could probably tease him on some colors and get away with it. But if you're not having issues with seeing color, you know what color red is and browns. I mean, you can see it, right? Amen? Amen. Don't you hate when someone looks at the sky and says, I don't see blue? Well, open your eyeballs. It's blue. But isn't it amazing, though? They'll look at something the same way you will, and they'll come up with a whole completely different story. And you see it every time there's an eyewitness to an account on the evening news. In this area, they always find the buck-toothed Bubba, who's got a third-grade education, saw the whole UFO. That was the situation here. You got Jehoshaphat, who had an understanding of who God was and had enough reverence for God at the beginning of his ministry as king that he at least wanted to see if God was behind this. And he saw something in 400 prophets that Ahab had called, and he didn't see a lot of convincing him. Let me ask a simple question. Isn't there one besides all these that we can inquire of the Lord? And isn't it ironic that Ahab come up with one right off the top of his lips? Yeah, I got one of them, Micaiah, but I hate him. He don't ever do me any good. Look at verse number 10. And Zedekiah the son of Kenana had made him horns of iron and said, Thus saith the Lord, With these thou shalt push Syria until they be consumed. And all the prophets prophesied so, saying, Go up to Ramoth Gilead and prosper, for the Lord shall deliver it into the hand of the king. And the messenger that went to call Micaiah spake to him, saying, Behold, the words of the prophets declared good to the king with one assent. Let thy word therefore, I pray thee, be like one of theirs, and speak thou good. And Micaiah said, As the Lord liveth, even what my God saith, that will I speak. And when he was come to the king said unto him, Micaiah, shall we go up to Ramoth Gilead to battle, or shall I forbear? Isn't that ironic? He takes the record of I when he says we. You just have to know Ahab. And he said, Go ye up and prosper, and they shall be delivered into your hand. And the king said to him, How many times shall I adjure thee that thou say nothing but the truth to me in the name of the Lord? Then he said, I did see all Israel scattered upon the mountains, as sheep that have no shepherd. And the Lord said, these have no master. Let them return therefore every man to his house in peace. And the king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, did I not tell thee that he would not prophesy good unto me, but evil? Again he said, therefore hear the word of the Lord. I saw the Lord sitting upon his throne, and all the host of heaven standing on his right hand and on his left. And the Lord said, who shall entice Ahab, king of Israel, that he may go up and fall at Ramoth-Gilead? And one spake, saying after this manner, and another saying after that manner. Then there came out a spirit and stood before the Lord and said, I will entice him. And the Lord said unto him, wherewith? And he said, I will go out and be a lying spirit in the mouth of all his prophets. And the Lord said, thou shalt entice him, and thou shalt also prevail. Go out and do even so. Now therefore, behold, the Lord hath put a lying spirit in the mouth of these thy prophets, and the Lord hath spoken evil against thee. Then Zedekiah the son of Kenaanah came near, and smote Micaiah upon the cheek, and said, which way went the Spirit of the Lord from me to speak unto thee? Micaiah said, behold, thou shalt see on that day when thou shalt go into an inner chamber to hide thyself. Then the king of Israel said, take ye Micaiah and carry him back to Ammon, the governor of the city, and to Joash the king's son, and say, thus saith the king, put this fellow in the prison, and feed him with bread of affliction and with water of affliction, till I return in peace. Micaiah said, if thou certainly return in peace, then hath not the Lord spoken by me. And he said, hearken, all you people. So the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, went up to Ramoth-Gilead. The king of Israel said unto Jehoshaphat, I will disguise myself, and will go to the battle, but put thou on thy robes. So the king of Israel disguised himself, and they went to the battle. Now the king of Syria had commanded the captains of the chariots that were with him, saying, fight ye not with small or great, save only with the king of Israel. It came to pass when the captains of the chariots saw Jehoshaphat that they said, it is the king of Israel. Therefore they compassed about him to fight, but Jehoshaphat cried out, and the Lord helped him, and God moved them to depart from him. For it came to pass that when the captains of the chariot perceived that it was not the king of Israel, they turned back again from pursuing him. A certain man drew a bow at a venture, and smote the king of Israel between the joints of the harness. Therefore he said to his chariot man, turn thy hand, that thou mayest carry me out of the host, for I am wounded. The battle increased that day. Howbeit the king of Israel stayed himself up in his chariot against the Syrians until the even. About the time of the sun going down, he died. Chapter 19. Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, returned to his house in peace to Jerusalem. Jehu, the son of Hanani, the seer, went out to meet him. And said to King Jehoshaphat, shouldest thou help the ungodly, and love them that hate the Lord? Therefore is wrath upon thee from before the Lord. Nevertheless, there are good things found in thee, in that thou hast taken away the groves out of the land, and hast prepared thine heart to seek God. Jehoshaphat dwelt in Jerusalem, and he went out again and through the people from Beersheba to Mount Ephraim, brought them back unto the Lord God of their fathers. And he set judges in the land throughout all the fenced cities of Judah, city by city. He said to the judges, take heed what you do, for you judge not for man, but for the Lord, who is with you in the judgment. Wherefore now let the fear of the Lord be upon you. Take heed and do it. For there is no iniquity with the Lord our God, no respect of persons, nor taking of gifts. Moreover, in Jerusalem did Jehoshaphat set of the Levites and of the priests and of the chief of the fathers of Israel for the judgment of the Lord and for controversies when they returned to Jerusalem. And he charged them, saying, thus shall you do in the fear of the Lord faithfully, with a perfect heart. And what cause soever shall come to you of your brethren that dwell in their cities, between blood and blood, between law and commandment, statutes and judgments, ye shall even warn them that they trespass not against the Lord, and so wrath come upon you and upon your brethren, This do, and ye shall not trespass. And behold, Amariah, the chief priest, is over you in all matters of the Lord, and Zebediah, the son of Ishmael, the ruler of the house of Judah, for all the king's matters. Also the Levites shall be officers before you. I read all of that to get to this last sentence. Deal courageously, and the Lord shall be with the good. Many circumstances have brought us to this place this evening. Many times the Lord has had to humble us. And you. Folks, if you've never been humbled, you've never been saved. You will not find an individual in heaven that has not found humility. You have to admit that you are a sinner, and that you're in need of something that you do not possess. And that Savior of the world cannot be your actions, and it cannot be your talents or your good looks. It has to be the Savior called Jesus Christ. There can be no other. And Jehoshaphat was riding a fine line of honoring God, but also looking toward Ahab and longing to join affinity with a guy that was known to be wicked. And folks, I'm here to warn you that if you do not make a choice to stay away from some of the people that you hang with, they will bring you down. There was once a man named John Elliott. He was a pastor in the Connecticut region of these early Americas in the 1600s, and he pastored a church for over 60 years. Not content with just preaching to the white folks in his area, every 2 weeks he got on top of his horse and trekked over to the local Indian tribe that would later become known as the Natik Praying Indians. John Elliott would later be called the Apostle to the Indians. It was there that he brought to them the Word of God. What they lacked in common morals and decency did not cause John to run away. He stayed with them every 2 weeks and taught them how to plant crops, how to build houses, and even taught them how to cover up their nakedness. The Church of the Praying Natik Indians, in its peak, had 3,600 people in attendance. And in 1633, John Elliott, with the help of a captured Indian during the war, translated the very first Bible ever printed on American soil in the Natik language for these Indians. Not many, if any, of these copies still exist today. But what John did later after this was a printing of a grammar book that would become one of the greatest books for teaching the Indians civility and godliness apart from the Bible. He pointed them to Jesus. Because of this, many thousands were saved. On John Elliott's deathbed, his book was retrieved, and written inside the back cover were these words, and I quote, "Prayer and pains, through faith in Jesus Christ, will do anything." Do you know what that means? It means anything can happen if we do three things faithfully. Talk to God about it, work as hard as you can, and trust God that He will do what He said He would do. If we do these three things, we can do great things for God. And folks, I'm here to tell you, at my age, and as I get older, and some of you have looked back over your life recently and have said, man, where did the time go? Do you remember when you was a teenager, or maybe your young 20s? You ever walked past the mirror lately and said, man, that's an old person looking in the mirror? Sure you have. Ladies, you know you have. You sit there and grab for the makeup cabinet. You're like, who is this woman I see in the mirror? And the guys are, man, I didn't realize I looked this rough. I've often wondered why there's no good-looking preachers, especially as they get older, because they look like a ragged-out piece of leather. That is, if they've really been preaching. Because many of them are carrying the burdens of a ministry that they don't have answers for. And I heard something on the radio today that goes perfectly in this spot. That if you're not willing to fall on your knees and cry out to God, I don't have the answers, but I'm trusting that you do, you've not been in ministry. Because the truth is, you don't know what you're doing every day. Every day brings a new set of circumstances that God has already got answers for. And if you don't follow His grace, you will never understand what it means means to have a relationship with the Almighty. And often we find ourselves questioning everything, looking for peace in all of the wrong places. We'll go to the world expecting to find some kind of solace. It don't happen. Two things are a constant. Write these down somewhere. Number one, I want us to look back at Jehoshaphat. I want us to hold your spot and turn over to Ecclesiastes chapter 1. Because before we go on, some of you need to hear this, and you may not like it, but your problems are not unique. Your trials are nothing new. In fact, Ecclesiastes chapter 1 verse 9 teaches us, the thing that hath been, it is that which shall be. And that which is done is that which shall be done. And there is no new thing under the sun. You may think you're the only person that's ever experienced what you're going through. But I'm here to tell you, you haven't. But there's a couple things you better do if you want to walk a courageous Christian life. Two things are mandatory. Number one, hear the instructions of the king clearly. Number one, to deal courageously. That word in the Hebrew for deal is asah. And it literally means to make a deal. In other words, you've got to talk yourself into doing God's business a lot of times because the flesh ain't always going to be on board with you. Amen? You don't serve God because it feels good all the time, but maybe some Christians do. They wait until everything feels right and that they don't have little tummy aches and they don't have little toe aches and they ain't got little headaches so they can sit in the services. Folks, if you always are looking for the perfect environment to serve God, stay home. Because you're never going to find it. Because the devil's going to do his devil the best. When you've got a headache, come to church and the preacher's going to be preaching louder than you can ever remember. You're going to be looking, where is the volume button on this guy? Why does he always have to be so loud? I've seen these preachers that just get up there and whisper and they're so timid in the pulpit. I want to do, have you read the same book that I read? Can you imagine this story here? For 3 years, Ahab is carrying a chip on his shoulder because he can't have Syria. God wouldn't let a wicked king defeat Syria because Ahab hadn't honored God. And here's Jehoshaphat, minding his own business, comes down to Ahab, and they start talking. And Ahab goes, you do realize that Ramoth Gilead belongs to us. And we sit here still. And we want that piece of property. It's always been the same way with the Arabs and the Palestinians and the Jews. They're always arguing over borders. Instead of trusting God for what He gives, they always want a little bit more that doesn't belong to them. So they started a conversation. You know what? That's our land. And I need some help. Are you willing to go down with it? Jehoshaphat says, hey, my brothers are like your brothers. My people are your people. My horses are your horses. Whatever you need, I'll go with you because we're friends. You ever been there? I'll be the man for you, Ahab. You just count on me. I have your back. So they said, well, before we go, Jehoshaphat said, there's one guy I just want to just check with. Jehoshaphat says, are you sure there's not one prophet more? Because something about these 400 I'm looking at just don't convince me. You ever seen a charlatan preacher? Turn on TV and you won't go very far before you find them. I mean, they got the slick back hair and the pretty little eyelashes and they got all the makeup on. Y'all seen all? Oh, they're pretty. Don't seem without the makeup, boy. That'll freak you out. But they said, no, there's got to be one other because these 400 just look like they're false. And folks, you should know a false preacher when you see one. And so Ahab goes, oh, I got one guy, but I hate that sucker. Man, he is such a jerk. That's redneck paraphrase. His name is Micaiah. And he never did nothing good for me. He's always negative. Jehoshaphat knew in his spirit, we better check with this guy. Because if he's willing to tell the king the truth, that's the guy I need to listen to. So they go and fetch him. Here's this messenger. Get this in your mind. The messenger's there at the house of Micaiah knocking on the door. Micaiah, the king's calling for you. And all the way to the king's house, he's had 400 prophets there. And every one of them prophesying good. You make sure you do the same thing. Micaiah says,
I'm here to tell you, whatever God tells me to prophesy, that's what I'm going to prophesy. Let's get this joker straight right up front. So they get there, and sure enough, Ahab asks the question, should we go up or shall I forbear? He's going to take all the credit for that. And so Micaiah says, go ahead. Go nuts. And it shocks Ahab. You mean to tell me you're going to side with these 400 guys? You ain't never did good for me. And then Micaiah tells him why he told him that. Well, the Lord appeared to me and says, this is what's going to happen. I need to send a lying spirit out. So those 400 guys, they've been lying to me, and I just thought I'd go along with it because God's going to seal your doom. And Ahab goes, Jehoshaphat should have known at that point. I ain't going with this guy. But you know, some of us are stupid. You ever had a stupid day? You're not as intelligent as you think you are. Some of you think you are. I are done. Sometimes that's a great phrase to start off the day with. I are done. Look in the mirror. I are done. Because Jehoshaphat should have known better. But he went anyway. While they're going, Ahab goes, hey, Jehoshaphat, I got an idea. I'm going to disguise myself. But I want you to go ahead and wear your robes. Let everybody know who you are. You're the king. I mean, you go ahead and wear your robes. But I'm going to disguise myself like a common soldier. Jehoshaphat gets in the middle of that battle, and all of a sudden they surround him. They're about to croak on him because he didn't realize that God was moving in a special way with the Syrian army to wipe out Ahab. And Jehoshaphat notices in the midst of that storm, there's only one source for peace. And he cried out, help! And in that moment, God did something to make those Syrian armies back off of Jehoshaphat. And one of them said, there you are. And he sent that arrow and he stuck that King Ahab right in the harness. Now, he wasn't even dressed as the king. He didn't even have his rank and colors on. But God determined that that arrow was going to find its mark. You can go against God all you want to, but sooner or later that arrow is going to be marked and it's going to hit its target. You may not see it coming. You may think it'll never happen to you because you've made all the provisions to protect and disguise yourself from the issue. But when God sends an arrow, it always finds its mark. Amen. Our job is to deal courageously from the very get-go. When God says it's wrong, you need to back God up and say, I stand with God. It is wrong. I don't care what anybody says. It's still wrong. This week I had a very interesting conversation with a woman. Last week. She asked a question to me. And some of you are going to get mad when I say this, but you need to deal with it. She has a 21-year-old daughter. Showed me a picture of a beautiful 21-year-old girl. She found out I was a pastor. She goes, I need to talk to you. Never met this woman in my life. I said, ma'am, what's going on? She goes, I got a 21-year-old girl that just come out of the closet and let me know she's homosexual. She's been raised in church. She knows better. She's been taught better. She was drugged to church every time the doors were open. She's been on mission trips with our youth group. She was engaged to be married to a guy. That guy broke her heart and she ran into the arms of another woman. And my husband is compromising. And my husband is allowing her to bring her spouse now to our home. And I don't know what to do about it. But I drew a line in the sand the other day and I said, no more. Get out of my house, you're not welcome. She goes, I need to ask you a question, Pastor. With tears running down her cheeks, she goes, did I make the right decision? I said, ma'am, I don't know you. I've never met your daughter. But I will tell you this. My Bible teaches me that homosexuality is still an abomination unto God. And our Bible teaches us not to mess with the abominable. There's a reason why God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah and these other cities of the plains. It has done nothing but destroy people's lives. I don't care what politics say. I don't care what the movies try to promote. It's as wrong today as the very first moment God spoke it. And I said, ma'am, if you'll stand on your principles, you very well may win your daughter back. But if you compromise like your husband, you're going to lose them forever. And she says, that's a hard thing to do. And this was the deciding factor why I told her that. She told me right before that, she said, not only has she come out of college, but she's flaunting it in front of us. I said, well, ma'am, I'll tell you this. When my kids were dating, they brought someone to the house, I didn't allow them to lounge together. When I was dating my wife, I didn't lounge with her in her house. Not before we was married, and I still didn't lounge with her after we were married. There's a time and a place. I didn't flaunt our relationship in front of anybody because it's not right. And I said, ma'am, if you will stand on those principles of what's right because God says so, I've got a sneaking suspicion that God will help you deal courageously with every issue that comes forward from this situation. She looked at me and she says, why does it have to hurt this bad? I said, when we get to heaven, we can ask Jesus the same question. But I think by the time we get there, it won't matter. They don't preach in a lot of pulpits in this country. And it may not preach well in this one. Because I know we all have family, I do too, that have come out of a closet and said they are homosexual. This does not mean that we hate them.
That's right.
It does mean, however, we will not condone the behavior that is an abomination unto God. And if we don't deal courageously on the issues that God has clearly spoken in His Word, we will never know what it's like to live a courageous Christian life. Psalm 41:9 says, yea, mine own familiar friend, in whom I trusted, which did eat of my bread, hath lifted up his heel against me. You cannot be godly and run with ungodly people for long. It will take a toll on you. I've had people say, well, what if they're family? So what? I've got family that do things that I will not be a partaker of. I will not go with them. I will not do what they do. I know they're doing wrong, and they know that I know they're doing wrong. We don't discuss it. We don't bring it up, but I am not going to be involved in what they're involved in. They know better. Why? Because the Bible is clear on the topic. Jehoshaphat should have known better. But he looked over there at Ahab, and for whatever reason said, Ahab, what I have is yours. Where you go, I'll go. If you have a fight, I'll get in there with you. It almost cost him his life. Go back to 2 Chronicles chapter 19 and look at this verse 11 with me very carefully. Jehoshaphat had a revelation there in verse 4 of that chapter 19 and began to change his mindset of what's right and what's wrong. Verse 11 said, behold, Amarai, the chief priest, is over you in all matters of the Lord. You want to know why he put someone else in charge? Because he didn't trust himself. Amen? The king is not called to be the priest. Folks, God put a preacher in charge of the church for a purpose. And when we stand in front of God, the preacher is going to stand for that church, not you. And you may think I'm harsh in some areas, but I've got to give an account of this place. Folks, if you don't back up your pastor, you need to find a church that you can back up your pastor. You have no concept of what he's going through. And I'm not here to toot a horn of the pastor because that doesn't fly either. But I'm here to tell you there are burdens that you cannot understand unless you're there. And our job is to still deal courageously with every tough topic that comes up. And the Wednesday night crowd, they're the toughest of the church. They're the ones that have been through the most. They're the ones that have found the value of God's house. They're the ones that have put aside their schedules, even when the Astros are playing tonight, and have come to church. Why? Because God's more important than baseball. Amen. I don't care if they win or lose tonight. I care if God shows up in this house. Now don't get stupid. I still want them to win. But if it means that I have to lose the friendship of God and make a choice, I'm choosing God tonight for this. Because I don't need to be in front of a television watching baseball when God's house is open for worship. Number two, not only do we need to deal courageously, look back at that verse 19. I'm going to put Amarai in charge of all the matters of the Lord, and then
Zebediah the son of Ishmael, the ruler of the house of Judah, for all the king's matters. Also the Levites shall be officers before you. Deal courageously, and the Lord shall be with the good. So many people in church want God to grade them on the curve. Folks, if you do right, God will honor you. If you do wrong, God's going to get you. Why? Because you belong to Him. When my little kids were coming up and they messed up, guess what? They got a spanking. And I had mother-in-law, and I had father-in-law, I had mama and daddy at times, and I had others saying, you ought not be so hard on them kids. I don't remember them lighting up on me when I was a little kid. Thank God that we followed through with the spankings. It was hard. I didn't want to spank my children. I didn't get any enjoyment out of that, but I knew that I had to do that because my Bible says in Proverbs, you spare that rod, you're going to spoil the child. You want to know what's wrong with some of our kids in this church? Mom and Dad ain't used a rod in a while. Amen? Oh, I hate that when I had little kids and the preacher said that. Well, I'm using my belt. Don't look at me because everybody in church look at me because I got little kids. But I'm going to tell you what, folks. It's important when they're little. You better start when they're younger. You'll lose them.
That's right.
Some of you can stand up and testify. Yeah, I didn't do it when I was younger. And I've lost my children. Turn to Hebrews chapter 10. Hebrews chapter 10. Boy, I tell you what, if you look at the narrative of 2 Chronicles 19 and how Jehoshaphat spoke before and after the mishap that almost cost him his life, it's night and day. You ever been hungry? Have you ever almost died? And you're like, sit down and whew, that was close. The other day, Monday, taking out my father-in-law's wood log splitter back out to Willis, and I'm getting out there, right out there at 30, 83, and 45, for whatever reason. It's a really nice freeway. They've got it all open, and it's really visual. It's really nice. Everything's been redone. But it's become a grand parkway of sorts. People are flying around that area. And you hear reports all the time of accidents in that area, and you wonder why. Well, I'm sitting here pulling the trailer. It's raining, and I've got this going, and out of the blue, I hear before I see this Dodge Hemi pickup doing about 120. And I'm doing 80, and he flew past me on the right side, and I almost lost control in that shoulder. Well, I had just passed up a 6-point buck, and I looked in the mirror, and he almost hit that buck that someone else had already hit laying on the side of the freeway. And everybody in the area was just kind of bracing because they expected him to start rolling, lose control. But somehow he gained control. And I thought that thing was over. And right about that time, here comes another one, right on the left side. So, and I don't know if they had road rage going or they were racing or something, but it was close. But I could hear right before that, I could hear a small, still voice, hold your course. And it was almost as audible saying, just hold your course. And I didn't know why. And all of a sudden, he got zoom and zoom. And I was so like, woo! It scared the snot out of me. You ever been in those situations? I knew these trucks were about to roll. But somehow God prevented damage that moment. And they sped away off into the distance. I don't know what happened to them after that. Maybe they were statistic. They will be. They keep driving out there. But how many times has God kept you from harm? It reminded me yet again that God says, hold up, you're sitting at a red light. And for whatever reason you don't go, right at the instance it turns green. Small, still voice says, hold up just a second. And somebody goes, yesterday I'm going to see Dad. The thing come down Kingwood Place, and I come up to North Park. I'm fixing to take a left. And right before Mom, you remember you was right behind me, and that guy blew that stop sign. And Mark was sitting in the passenger's truck with me and goes, man, that was close. Never even slowed down. Never saw the stop sign. And I started thinking, Lord, how many times have you whispered and we not even recognized the voice? Something was going on in Jehoshaphat's life and he wasn't understanding when God was speaking at the moment. Look at Hebrews chapter 10, verse 16. This is the covenant that I will make with them after those days, saith the Lord. I will put my laws into their hearts, and in their minds will I write them. And their sins and iniquities will I remember no more.
Now where remission of these is, there is no more offering for sin. Having therefore, brethren, boldness to enter into the holiest by the blood of Jesus, by a new and living way which he hath consecrated for us through the veil, that is to say, his flesh, and having him high priest over the house of God, let us draw near with a true heart and full assurance of faith, having our hearts sprinkled from an evil conscience and our bodies washed with pure water. Let us hold fast the profession of our faith without wavering, for he is faithful that promised. And let us consider one another to provoke unto love and to good works, not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together, as a manner of some is, but exhorting one another, and so much the more as you see the day approaching. For if we sin willfully after that we have received the knowledge of the truth, there remaineth no more sacrifice for sins, but a certain fearful looking for of judgment and fiery indignation which shall devour the adversaries. He that despised Moses' law died without mercy under 2 or 3 witnesses. But how much sore punishment, suppose ye, shall he be thought worthy, who hath trodden under foot the Son of God, and hath counted the blood of the covenant, wherewith he was sanctified, an unholy thing, and hath done despite unto the Spirit of grace. Ahab led Jehoshaphat into poor choices, and Jehoshaphat was deceived because he did not hold true to the Word of God at times. And if we're honest, every one of us could say the same thing. We do not have a perfect spiritual record. There are times we've doubted God. There's times we say He can't provide. There's times we say we don't see a way out of this one. But God has always found a way. In 1 Thessalonians 5:21, the Bible says, prove all things, hold fast to that which is good. And folks, I'm here to tell you, I love knowing that God is good and that I can trust Him for everything, because there's nobody on this planet that I trust completely but Him. You know, my wife will even let me down. Where is she? She's been known to really let me down. She's even made a meal one time and had the gall to ask me, do you like it? Knowing it was horrible. She messed up on it, but she wanted to make sure it got past my palate. And I said, baby, wait up, hold up now. This is nasty. I only said that once, and the swelling came back 3 days later. I've eaten everything she's ever cooked. I'm just that serious. I mean, I appreciated the attempt. I appreciate it. But God says if you don't hold on to the things that you know are good, you're going to lose your walk with me. God wants to walk hand in hand with you, but He's not going to walk down the path that is contrary to Him. So many Christians today think that they can put Christ on Sunday, on Wednesday, and take Him off like a garment the rest of the week and live like they want to, make the choices they want to with no recourse. Folks, God takes perfect records every single day. And just as He prevented us from harm Monday, He's going to prevent you from harm until He says it's your time to come home. And that could happen tomorrow. That could happen tonight on the way home. We may get a call tonight. Hey, so-and-so passed away. Invariably, we get those calls in the ministry all the time. People from your past, people you went to church with, people that you've known outside of church, other issues come up and you get those calls. And the older you get, guess what? Many of you outlive your own friends. You have to bury them. You walk by those caskets and you have those memories of those good, fond days that y'all had together. The things that made you laugh and the things that crazy maybe that y'all did in your youth. And you look in that mirror and know that your day is coming soon and that the time is clicking away. See, when you're young, you don't think that way. But as you get older, you begin to contemplate what could have been, what should have been in your life. Folks, don't live like that. Let me tell you how you win. You deal courageously, and you hold on to what you know is good. Because look back at chapter 19 of 2 Chronicles with me one more time. One thing I've learned in the last 35, 40 years, don't apologize for standing with people that are right. Sometimes you ain't got to say anything at all, just stand with them. I can't tell you how many times you go into the hospital, you don't have the words to say, all you can do is sit there. Just nestle up to someone who's been through a tragedy that you cannot relate to. Don't say anything. Just be there. You remember when Job had his issues and he lost all of his kids? His friends coming from afar and they sat in silence for days. And then when they finally did speak, they spoke the wrong things concerning Job. You ever had a well-meaning Christian try to do the right thing and say the stupidest thing? And you look at them like, how? Do you not even understand what I'm going through right now? And the answer is always, no, they don't. They can't know. Some of you are carrying baggage from when you were a child. You haven't dealt with issues that have been there so long, and it's like a cancer. And it wears at your psyche, and it wears at your mind. And back in the back of your mind, you want to trust God for it, but you don't know if you really can. I'm telling you tonight, folks, deal courageously and say, God, I trust you. I'm going to let go of the bitterness. I'm going to let go of the anger. I'm going to let go of the things that I can't control, and I'm going to hold on to what I know is good. And there's only one good, and you're Him. Look at verse 4:19. 2 Chronicles 19:4. Joshua dwelt in Jerusalem. Went out again through the people from Beersheba to Mount Ephraim and brought them back into the Lord God of their fathers. You want to know why he did such a thing? Because he had praying Christians, no doubt, in that kingdom that were asking God to help Jehoshaphat make a decision that was better than what he was making. Probably couldn't understand Jehoshaphat making an affinity with such a wicked king named Ahab. And Jehoshaphat had to go humble himself to God first. And then he had to humble himself to his people that he had let down. And folks, if you're not willing to humble yourself to the person you've offended, then shame on you. You're not ready to live a courageous life with Christianity as your compass. You've got to be willing to say, I messed up, but praise God, He's forgiven me. Now will you? If you're too proud to ask for an apology, you're not walking with God. You've got to be willing to say, Lord, I need help. Look at verse 5. And he set judges in the land throughout all 50 cities of Judah, city by city. Said to the judges, take heed what you do, for you judge not for man, but for the Lord, who is with you in the judgment. Wherefore now let the fear of the Lord be upon you. Take heed to do it. There is no iniquity with the Lord our God, nor respect of persons, nor taking of gifts. I've had 3 meetings this week with 3 different people. And all 3 of them said the same thing to me. Out of the blue. None of them know each other. None of them know what the other is going to say to me or what's going to say to me. And God was tapping on my heart every time, saying, that's what I've been trying to tell you. You going to listen? And the second time it happened, it started getting a little freaky. It happened again today for the 3rd time. I came back to the office and said, Lord, I don't want to answer this one. I don't want to do it this way. God says, fine, don't. You do it your way. I wrestled all afternoon. Lord, I don't want to do it your way. I want to do it my way. He said, fine. Tried to get in my Bible, couldn't get anything out of the Bible. Because I said no. But as God is my witness, before I got up in this pulpit tonight, I settled that peace with God. I said, God, I want to do it your way. Although it grates against my flesh, and it grates against my psyche, and it grates against my character, and what I would rather happen, I'm going to do it God's way from this day on concerning that issue, because God sent 3 separate people this week to remind me that if you don't do this, it's going to cost you. And I was reminded of that verse, there's wisdom in a multitude of counselors. You may notice a few things different. I'm not going to tell you, but you'll figure them out. But I want you to know I'm going to hold on to the ones that are doing right. I'm going to love them as hard as I know how. I'm going to hug you like you got a pimple that needs to pop, but I'm going to hug you. Because if I'm not careful, I'll walk straight away from you. just like some of you have. Just like some of you are contemplating tonight. In a way, you can't see when God's throwing up the red flags found in 2 Chronicles 18:7. When God's king says, I hate God's man, there's something wrong with that. I've heard so many Christians debating Trump. I am so fed up with it. I'm just going to be thankful for the good that we have in some of the decisions he's making. Do I agree with everything? Of course not. But I do thank God for some of the decisions being made. I'm going to stand with the good. Because I know if we had the alternative, there wouldn't be an option left. So God, in His infinite wisdom, for whatever reason, has given America a bit of a reprieve. And now we have Beto, or Beto, or whatever his name is. Folks, there's always going to be someone like that lining up, trying to destroy the good of this country. But in order for that to happen, they're going to have to destroy God first, and that's never going to happen. God says, I put up who I will, and I put down who I will. In the meantime, are we going to walk courageously with God or not? I talked to the appraisal district this week, got that all settled, and sent it out, got the paperwork done, and the lady was very nice to me over the phone. I was kind of a little sharp with her, and I told her, I said, ma'am, I don't agree with all this paperwork that we got to do. And she goes, this is not really my decision, sir. She was being nice. I wasn't. I was being a little moody about it. I kind of got defensive about God's house. And then I remembered, it's not my buildings, it's not my land, it's His. Whatever happens, God knows what He's doing. He's never taken by surprise. And if Jehoshaphat would have only understood Micaiah's heart, he would have never almost died. Folks, if you would become more sensitive to God, day after day after day, you would probably avoid a lot of mishaps. So, Father, help us to live a courageous life. Help us to live one that matters in the end. Lord, help us not to get all excited about every decision that we make or don't make. Help us to be patient and wait for the decisions that you make, Father. Many times we want to go at a faster pace and sometimes at a slower. Father, help us to wait for your pace. As we study Ahab and Jehoshaphat, we understand how bad it can be to team up with bad friends. Father, I pray that tonight, before we get out of this place, that we make a decision in our families and in our friend base, or we may have to cut some of them loose because we stand with you. Lord, help us never compromise things that you clearly say are wrong. Lord, that's not popular today. We'll need your strength. Teach us to stand, Father. What I ask for everyone here before we leave, Father, is that you give them the ability to stand. Lord, some of them have been through a long life, a long, taxing, tiring life, but there's still yet a day to stand in. We're not asking strength for next week, we're asking strength for today. Help us to do that every day, Father, for it's in Jesus' name we